Have you ever wondered what happens after an alleged UFO crash? Beyond just the first reports, what kind of deep, dark secrets might be hidden away? Stuff that changes someone's life forever. Well, today we're doing a really specific deep dive into one of those accounts, the Fort Dix-McGuire incident, from back in January 1978.
And our main source here is Leonard H. Stringfield's UFO Crash Retrievals Status Report 4. It came out originally in January 1985. It's a really compelling narrative, and it leans very heavily on the testimony of one key witness, a USAF Security Policeman named Jeffrey Morse.
Right, so we're going to unpack Morse's incredible story, the really bizarre things he claims he saw, and the huge lengths he says the authorities went to basically contain everything, keep it all under wraps. Okay, let's get into it. So let's paint a picture first. Where did this all happen? We're talking McGuire Air Force Base and the Fort Dix Military Reservation. They're right near the U.S. Naval Air Station in Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Big place.
Huge. It covers something like 42,000 acres. And it's, pretty strategically located about 45 miles east of Philly, maybe 50 miles south of New York City. So a major military complex.
Right. And it's January 18th, 1978. Jeffrey Morse, he's just on his regular patrol driving his security car. Then he gets this radio alert, a pretty startling one. It says there's a state of alert at McGuire.
And the reason?
The reason given was a, quote, shooting incident involving a non-human entity.
Wow. Okay, just non-human entity. Imagine hearing that over the radio.
Exactly. Your mind would just race, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And then things get even stranger, right? His orders change.
They do. He's told to go to gate number 5. He needs to let in a state police officer. This officer had apparently been running code lights and sirens with a military policeman during some kind of encounter over at Fort Dix.
Running code, so full emergency response. Whatever happened was serious.
Definitely indicates urgency. But here's the thing. The trooper gets onto the base, McGuire AFB, but he stopped, not allowed any closer to the runway.
So he's involved, calls for backup, or gets involved with the MP, rushes over, and then hits a wall.
Pretty much. Morse said the trooper was, understandably, really angry about being blocked. It shows that immediate clampdown on information, even for cooperating law enforcement.
Yeah, that immediate secrecy is telling, but then Morse sees something else, doesn't he? Something different.
Yes. He said just moments after they cordoned off the runway, this new and unfamiliar team of Blue Berets just suddenly appeared, descended right onto the scene.
New and unfamiliar, but Blue Berets, that's Air Force Security Police, right? Like Morse himself.
That's the thing. Morse reported they took over with incredible speed and efficiency. But when he and the other regular McGuire security guys asked who they were...
Let me guess. Told nothing.
Exactly. Told nothing and ordered to stay outside the ropes. Total information blackout for the local personnel.
So these guys, Morse described them, didn't he? What did they look like?
He did. He said they were all staff sergeants or higher ranks, wearing fatigues, but with no patches, no insignia at all.
No patches. That's weird for military personnel.
Very weird. Deliberately anonymous. And he noted they wore blue berets just like mine. He sort of speculated maybe they were undercover cops, or perhaps stationed somewhere else on McGuire he didn't know about.
And did they fly in? Helicopters, maybe?
That's what Stringfield asked. But Morse said no, didn't see or hear any helicopters, which kind of ruled out them being flown in quickly from another base. Just adds to the mystery of where they came from so fast.
Okay, so this mystery team takes over. Maximum security descends on this runway.
Totally. They set up an entry control point, an ECP. They even brought in a generator unit to get better lighting on the scene. And Morse counted at least a dozen men, armed with M16s, guarding the ropes. Strict doesn't even begin to cover it.
And who was allowed inside that cordon?
Very few. According to Morse, the base commander, the security police squadron commander, a first lieutenant WS, also security police, and interestingly, a base photographer.
A photographer? Documenting everything, presumably.
Presumably. But then Morse describes seeing something, well, pretty chilling.
Yeah. What was that?
He watched these Blue Beret specialists, the mystery team, spray the corpse from a portable tank. Then they covered it with a white sheet.
Spray the corpse.
Yeah.
Like decontamination.
That's certainly how Stringfield interpreted it, like an immediate biohazard protocol for something completely unknown.
Yeah.
It's a really disturbing image.
It really is. And the operation continued meticulously after that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He said before dawn, they carefully put the body onto some kind of platform. Then they built a wooden frame around that. And then this whole assembly platform, frame, body, was lifted into what he described as a large square silver metal container, about 10 feet by 10 feet.
A big silver box. Any markings?
He said it had undistinguishable blue markings, nothing he could recognize.
Okay, so they've got the cargo secured. What next?
Around 7 a.m., a C-141 aircraft arrived. More specifically noted, it came from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He recognized it by special markings.
Special markings? Suggesting what? Not just a regular transport plane.
Likely designated for classified missions, yeah. Not your standard cargo run. It underlines how sensitive this whole operation was.
And then they loaded the box onto the plane.
Morse and the others watched them forklift the silver box into the C-141. Then they just watched the plane take off, carrying its, quote, secret cargo soar aloft into limbo. The assumption was it was heading back to Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio.
Wow. What a night. You'd think that would be the end of it for Morse, right? The plane leaves, things maybe go back to normal.
You would think. But no, for Sergeant Morse and some of the other regular Blue Berets from McGuire, it was far from over. In fact, the next phase was just beginning.
The pressure phase.
You could call it that. They were ordered onto another C-141. This time, they were the passengers.
And the destination.
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the same place the cargo supposedly went. Stringfield called it the base of many sancta, given its history in ufology. Morse described the setup there. He said it felt like that of a court-martial. Just an unadorned room with a table and chairs. Very intimidating.
And the interrogation itself. Who conducted it?
He said initially it was two men. One was apparently a civilian with pipe and beard who never spoke. Just observed.
The silent observer. Always unsettling.
Right. Then later there were three men. Morse described a classic interrogation setup. One played the nice guy, one played the mean guy, and the silent civilian was still there.
Good cop, bad cop. And the silent guy. What was their goal?
Pretty simple, according to Morse. They wanted to know the nature of the incident, what I knew, just confirming what he saw and experienced. And then came the warning. He was told very clearly about his duty to keep my mouth shut.
And they made him sign something.
Yes, a form. He said it was supposed to bind me for life. A non-disclosure agreement, essentially, under extreme duress.
But did they offer any explanation? Did they say, look, this is what you saw?
Not at all. That's what Morse found striking. He said never once did they offer any information themselves. They just beat around the bush. He said all references to it were indirect. They never directly mentioned the dead body or even hinted it might be, extraterrestrial. Deliberate ambiguity.
Keep him guessing, keep him quiet.
Yeah.
So after this intense interrogation, then what? Back to McGuire.
Yeah, the very next day. He flew back, got debriefed by his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel FM, and then was just released for normal duty.
Just like that.
Just like that. Morse stated the incident was not discussed again by anyone as though it never happened. Wiped clean.
Incredible. Now, Stringfield didn't just take Morse's word for it, did he? He tried to verify some details, like the names of the officers involved.
He did. He used a military source he had and also got Richard Hall, a respected colleague, to check records at the Library of Congress. They managed to confirm most of the names Morse provided from the Wright-Patterson interrogation, including a brigadier general.
Most names, but not all.
Right. There was one discrepancy, a Colonel B, who Morse had identified as the bad guy in the interrogation. They couldn't confirm that name.
Does that weaken the story significantly, or is that kind of expected?
Well, Morse did say all the officers, even this Colonel B, were in civilian clothes, but they wore nameplates with their rank, except for the silent guy with the pipe and beard, no nameplate there.
The suspected CIA or intel guy?
Possibly. Morse confirmed it wasn't Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was a famous UFO investigator sometimes consulted by the Air Force. But Stringfield argued that even confirming most of the names, especially high-ranking ones at Wright-Pat, lent significant credibility. Verifying assignments for potentially covert personnel is notoriously hard. The McGuire officers Morse named were also checked and confirmed.
So the implication here, if Morse's account holds up, is that the military or some agency goes to extraordinary lengths to keep these things secret, not just immediately, but long-term.
Absolutely. Stringfield really emphasized that. He argued that if the story is true, then UFO-related military incidents are safeguarded by any means necessary to maintain optimum secrecy. And that made Jeffrey Morse, as a witness, a definite risk. Stringfield even speculated that Morse's mail, and maybe even his own, was being monitored because of this.
And did Morse himself report anything concrete? Any evidence of surveillance or pressure after the fact?
Oh, yes. He definitely felt he was being watched. He reported interference with his mail and even had visitors with warning.
Visitors, like Men in Black style.
He didn't quite say that, but definitely intimidating. In a letter to Stringfield in January 1984, years later, mind you, he explained why he was being cagey on the phone. He said there was a government car on the street the day he got a letter from Stringfield. He also mentioned much trouble with our phone in the past 2 weeks, with different repairmen fixing the same problems repeatedly.
Wow, that's blatant harassment. Did it affect his life in other ways? His career?
It seems so. In early '84, he was trying to get a law enforcement job with a government service. He ran into major roadblocks. The government flat out refused to hire him at first. He actually took them to federal appeals court, and the court ordered them to hire him.
So he won in court.
Initially, yes, but then the government appealed that decision. They were really fighting to keep him out.
And did they ever give a reason? Or
Yeah.
connect it to, well, to Stringfield?
They did, and this is pretty stunning. A Justice Department attorney, during a discussion about his employment problems, directly told Morse, quote, "Your acquaintance with Mr. Stringfield did not help."
Whoa. That's basically admitting it, isn't it? Stop talking to the UFO guy, and maybe things will go better for you.
It certainly sounds that way. And then came the really dramatic part. In December 1984, Morse reported being approached by a person wearing a black suit in my parking lot. This person apparently suggested things might go my way if I deny this incident.
Deny the Fort Dix encounter.
Deny the Fort Dix encounter. And shortly after that conversation, Morse got a registered letter. The Department of Justice had reversed its decision and decided to make him eligible for hire after all.
So the pressure worked. Or they made a deal.
Morse certainly thought so. He told Stringfield, "I felt these two things are related. Deny the story, get the job." It's a picture of intense, prolonged pressure to ensure his silence.
It really underscores Stringfield's point, doesn't it? That the strength of this case isn't just the initial report, it's Jeffrey Morse himself.
Exactly. And Morse's own motivation, as he stated it, the public should know the truth, despite everything he went through.
Now, Stringfield brought up another case, the Ellsworth case, sort of as a comparison, right? How did that play out?
Yeah, the Ellsworth case. It was another alleged UFO crash and retrieval, supposedly near Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota, back in November 1977, so just before Fort Dix. It started with an anonymous note sent to the National Enquirer in early '78 claiming a top-secret incident.
The National Enquirer.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so how did they handle it?
Well, reporter Robert Pratt investigated it thoroughly. Initially, they found some names mentioned in the note seemed real, which was intriguing.
That.
But ultimately, Pratt and his team concluded it was a hoax. They found over 20 discrepancies or errors in the report, things like wrong names, wrong job titles, even inaccuracies in the physical layout described.
So it fell apart under scrutiny.
Completely. Pratt published his findings in the MUFO UFO Journal in 1984, calling it Anatomy of a Hoax, basically to kill the rumors. He felt it was highly unlikely the Air Force could fake that many documents or silence absolutely everyone involved if it had been real.
And what did Jeffrey Morse think about the Ellsworth case? Did he know about it?
Oh yeah, he was aware of it. Interestingly, he commented that some of the terminology used in the bogus Ellsworth report seemed pretty accurate, maybe suggesting it was cobbled together by someone with some knowledge or perhaps rewritten. But his main point was crucial. He said, without first-hand information, the case doesn't mean much. And crucially, where's the source?
Ah. So for him, the difference was huge. Ellsworth was anonymous hearsay, while his story was direct, personal testimony.
Exactly. It highlights why he and Stringfield put so much weight on his own first-hand account.
So let's talk more about Morse himself. Stringfield and Richard Hall both assessed him. What was their impression? What made them believe him?
Stringfield described Morse as amiable, bright, alert, but also inclined toward reticence, not someone prone to exaggeration. Crucially, Stringfield noted Morse never once contradicted himself with the information he chose to offer. He was apparently trigger-quick to respond in convincing detail when pressed on key points.
But not overly emotional about it.
No, Stringfield observed he revealed little personal emotion over his dramatic experiences, which can sometimes be seen as a sign of truthful recounting of traumatic events, actually.
And Richard Hall's independent assessment.
Hall met Morse specifically to judge his credibility. He found him well-groomed, friendly, relaxed, calm, articulate. Said he spoke confidently and without hesitation. Hall's conclusion was pretty strong. Nothing in his manner or story to cause skepticism, and to the contrary, he seemed very credible to me. Hall also picked up on Morse's healthy dose of disdain for authorities, perhaps born from his experiences.
Okay, so credible demeanor. What about his background? Anything that might suggest he'd invent this?
That's where it gets interesting. He was young, only 20 at the time of the incident, born in 1958, majored in computer science, Catholic, member of the Fraternal Order of Police.
Pretty normal sounding guy. Hobbies.
Videotaping, foreign languages, softball, touch football, even coached youth sports. Just a regular person. And this is key for Stringfield. Morse was decidedly not a UFO buff. He didn't really know much about famous UFO cases or researchers.
He wasn't steeped in the lore.
Not at all. He professes not to be interested in UFOs and claimed no lingering trauma. This lack of interest actually strengthened his credibility in Stringfield's eyes. It argued against him being some kind of plant or someone fantasizing. He just seemed like a normal guy reporting an extraordinary event he unwillingly witnessed.
It makes his story and the pressure he faced seem all the more real, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So, pulling it all together, this deep dive into Fort Dix-McGuire, filtered through Morse's account via Stringfield, really paints a picture of, well, first, a highly unusual event, and second, an incredibly intense, ongoing effort to keep it secret. It stands as a pretty compelling case study if you accept Morse's testimony.
Yeah, when you look at it all, Morse's consistent story, the personal price he clearly paid, the independent checks on his character, it does make you pause. It really pushes you to consider not just if these kind of events could happen, but also the huge implications of the kind of deep government secrecy Stringfield was pointing to.
In thinking bigger picture, the whole case with Jeffrey Morse really raises that fundamental question. You know, in this world of classified secrets and alleged cover-ups, when does the truth finally become long overdue, as Stringfield put it, even if it only leaks out in bits and pieces through the experience of just one person who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe the right place? It makes you wonder how many other stories like this might be out there, untold.
So here's something to think about. What responsibility do you, listening to this, have when faced with these kinds of extraordinary claims? Especially when the source, like Morse, points towards hidden realities and this constant fight over information. If even someone deemed highly credible, like Morse was by Stringfield and Hall, might not have all the pieces, how do you navigate that? How do you decide for yourself what might be fact and what's just? Well, the unsettling edge of the unknown,